Good morning. It is 8:45 and we would like the board and guests to acknowledge and participate in the Continuous Improvement Impact Award ceremony, which we have before us right now. So I'd ask all that are able to please join us at the front of the dais in recognition of SAVE.
We have certificates to hand out to Public Works here today. They received the award for the most impactful continuous improvement project of 2018. There were 68 projects completed countywide, and they will soon be presenting on their project, which is we are calling the Super Truck, I believe. So today we have a certificate for the gentlemen that are here, along with the rest of the staff. All the staff will get the travel mug there, and the most important piece is the traveling trophy that will be displayed in Public Works for the remainder of the year in recognition of their excellent achievement here. So we'll go ahead and hand out the certificates, and then Seth and Mike will get an opportunity to explain what they created here. So Jess, how do you want to do this?
Yeah, you guys can just come on up and we'll give you a certificate.
And then you can shake hands with the commissioners and...
Yep, and then we also have for each of you before you go today, you can catch us from my office, and then Seth, congratulations. You get to keep this in your office for a year.
I think I'll have Bob epoxy this on the hood of the Super.
Make it removable, it only lasts a year.
Bob can weld too, so.
Is it steel? You can use a magnet.
I don't think so. Congratulations, thank you so much.
Thanks for your work. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
There we go, okay. Congratulations. Thank you. And Mike. Thanks guys, good job.
Got your colors on, ready to work.
Thank you so much, we appreciate it.
Oh, yeah?
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, Val.
Hey.
Thank you so much.
I'll take a shot of your hand.
Good morning.
Okay.
Well done. You guys.
Now you can return to your positions, and I believe there is a brief presentation.
There's nothing brief when I start to talk, is there?
I tried to bring that into the topic.
We know that. Actually, all the guys can come up here and just pull a chair up and.
Please.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the
morning.
board. It's a real honor to receive this award, and I'd just like to say Public Works is very much appreciates being recognized for our 2018 Lean Award. And of course, the staff that I have with me today were the key personnel involved with putting this unit together. I'd also just like to say that Public Works, we're always looking at ways to be more efficient and accomplish more with the same amount of staff and resources that we have. And so when trying to put together some comments about the Super Truck today, I was like, what's the best way to frame this? And I thought, well, maybe we'd identify the problem that we were trying to solve here. With our tandem fleet that we have and the snow equipment that's attached to these units makes these trucks very heavy, and so our legal load carrying capacity is much reduced. And so again, we're trying to look at how can we move more material, maybe with less personnel and trucks on the road. The other factor that we looked into is if we're going to haul more and we're going to bring more equipment in, we don't want that equipment to be sitting around for long periods of time when other equipment's going to be used. And another small problem that was in my mind is as we're getting more roundabouts and with our current sanding setups on our trucks, how do we most effectively deliver that salt sand mixture to our roundabouts where it's needed? Because with our standard way that we spread salt and sand, most of that material side discharges to the left, so we typically sand salt down the center of the road, and when you're in a roundabout, that typically ends up sanding just the truck apron. And so how do we get that material in the travel lane around the roundabout? So we kicked around a lot of different ideas. we do a lot of brainstorming, and have a lot of wild ideas, and somehow it all kind of came together in this unit that we're presenting about today. And so the solution involves, of course, a semi-tractor truck. It also includes removable stainless steel V-box with an adjustable delivery sander. Now, what's great about this unit, and then of course with the super truck, it was adding the side dump trailer to that. The great thing about this setup is that the semi tractor, along with the side dump, we can haul almost 2.5 times, or 2.5 tandem truckloads essentially with that unit. And so to deliver the same amount of product out on the road, if we're re-graveling, takes less personnel, which that freed up personnel can do other things. So that is a great increase in efficiency for us. The neat thing about the super truck, as I understand it, with the side dump attached to it, is supposedly the first setup in the state of this nature. So that's kind of neat. Now with this project, we've also submitted this idea to the Minnesota LTAP Opera program. And what LTAP is, the Local Technical Assistance Program, and that program is housed in the University of Minnesota, and its mission is to improve skills and knowledge of local transportation agencies. And so they sponsor this program called OPERA, the Operational Research Assistance Program. And this program provides up to $20,000 to recipients to investigate and explore innovations in operations, construction, and maintenance relating to methods, materials, and equipment. So we submitted the super truck idea to OPERA, and we were awarded a $20,000 grant to fully investigate this, and ultimately we will end up writing a report and submitting that. There will also be a professional YouTube video made about the super truck, and that information gets then dispersed to all the transportation agencies in the state, the counties, cities, and MnDOT. So that's my little bit of spiel on it. We can go through pictures and talk a little bit more in detail about it, and if the guys got more particular details that they want to share, you guys can go ahead. These guys are all instrumental in putting this together.
How would you like to start? Somebody is jarring here and has a question. I can tell.
Not so much a question, but as you're doing the photos, it'd be great to hear from the entire team. What did y'all do? I mean, what was your idea? What was your insight? And kind of explain it to us, because I'm tired of hearing from Seth.
Yeah, they hear that from me all the time.
Well, I'm sure they are.
I think we'll have Mike talk first.
Yeah, I'd like to hear the
Yeah.
uniqueness of the
Yeah.
engineering of this and why it's, well, just what you guys came up with as far as an idea on how to engineer this, really.
Okay, we worked with Tollmaster. They make our boxes, our dump bodies, and worked with them for the V-box design. They actually had a V-box that was a belt, live bottom. So Seth was asking, well, if we're gonna use this V-box, I want it with the lane selection. So they actually re-engineered Swenson to have a live bottom that's dual auger. So that's the first of that too.
Could you define the live bottom? Is that
It's
the
like
bottom
a-
of
like
the
a-
entire container, or is it the
It's like
discharge
augers,
portion?
2 augers.
Okay, that
instead
run
of a
all the
belt.
entire length of the
Correct.
box.
So there's no aprons in?
Okay, so there's no belting either.
No, no
Okay.
belting, no,
Okay. And then that's hydraulically powered, or is that?
yes.
Okay.
Is it stainless?
The box is, yes.
But the augers too?
The augers are actually narrow, they're steel.
They typically have a little bit of like a stainless alloy concoction.
So they tend not to
Yeah, they're-
deteriorate as
yeah.
quickly as they would if it were steel.
They're kind of a mixed breed of metal for those augers.
Yeah, they're painted, I know they're painted black.
Mhm.
But Bob is our mechanic, he helps with the specs of the truck. So we went through a lot of the specs, Dean too. Dean has a lot of experience with these trucks. With the gearing, we wanted to go with the highway gear in lieu of just, a dump gear, a much lower gear. So he helped with a lot with that. And then Matt Bodie here, he helped with the actual stands right there, the legs.
Mhm.
He designed that, which then Tollmaster took and copied, and now they, That's the first stands I've ever seen a V-Box like that have.
Did we get a patent?
Ask Matt about that. That's a sour
I
subject.
didn't even get a sweatshirt.
So we actually did receive our second truck, and they did provide us with the legs. So Matt didn't have to make the second one.
But you made the first set.
He did.
That's amazing.
And then he also,
Well, next picture, we gotta go through a few more, but you'll see the sander in the back, how it's flipped up.
Mhm.
And for one person to do that, it's almost impossible. So what we did was we took off of our old trucks, they have aprons that have like a hinge pin system. And we got 2 of those sets from Tollmaster, and then I welded them on the side. So I think it's the next picture here coming up, or the next one. You can kind of see the back, see how the chute comes off the back
Yep.
here now. This one, see how it's flipped up?
Yep.
So now we got hinges on the side, so now we're able just to pull that pin out and we just kick
Push
to
it,
the
or,
side.
oh, push it either
Just
side.
turn it right to the side, so we don't
Huh.
take anything off.
and
And they stole that as well.
they did. Yeah.
Not that you're sensitive about that.
No. No feelings.
So what does this picture depict? I can't figure out what these beams are on the back of this.
Well, the beams on the back are actually a belly. So the second.
Oh, that was part of the trailer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I couldn't connect that dot because
Yeah.
I didn't see the rest of it. That's why I thought there was something special about that. Okay.
Our first super truck has the side dump on it. Our
Right.
second super truck has a belly dump on it.
Okay. What's your experience with both? Do the staff have a preference? Or is it,
It kinda depends what we're doing.
so you have that selectability then, whatever you're
Yeah.
doing, you can do
Yeah.
that. But yet either one, you can haul twice as, well, 2.5 times what a normal tandem
Correct. You know, and for
would be.
graveling roads, it really works good for graveling, but it depends if, on a side dump, if you have a wide enough road. Some of the narrow roads, we have to use a belly.
Sure, sure. Did this change the overall length, or did you have a short enough trailer that you didn't exceed state length of a combination vehicle?
Well, this is all
meets
legal.
It all
everything.
meets,
Yeah.
okay. I was just wondering if you had to have a waiver, because
Yeah.
it looked like that tandem was a little longer than the average truck tractor, that's why I was curious.
Oh, no.
So then you just slide on a fifth wheel to connect the belly or side dump?
The fifth wheel stays on all
Oh,
the
it
time.
does. So is that part of the
sanding
attachment
box
system?
attaches to
Yeah.
the
Okay.
fifth wheel plate, which is, this makes this
So
system
it makes it super
really
strong
slick.
then and
Yeah.
very rigid?
Yeah.
And you guys designed that concept too, right? With the box attaching to a fifth
I
wheel?
think there was an existing
There was an
design out
existing.
there kind of like that. We just
I think
kind
ours is
of
the,
took it to the next level.
yeah, I think ours is like the 5th one.
Oh, okay.
So.
Well, it's great to see such innovation coming out of Nicollet County that will probably be used for many years in many other agencies, so
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
that's terrific.
Yes. We're very proud of you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well
The
done.
nice
thank you.
piece with this is this truck and one person does what the equivalent of 2.5 trucks and 2.5 staff.
Yeah.
So the efficiency with this.
Absolutely.
For this year and in every year is gonna be very significant, so.
Yeah.
Well done.
Good
Very well
work.
done.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
No, we're good.
Very good. Thank you so much again,
Thanks,
to
guys.
all of you. We really appreciate it.
Yeah.
And we're really proud of you.
Thank you.
Good morning. I'd like to call the June 25th
Board of Commissioners.
Apparently everybody's up. I didn't even say anything. All right. Good morning. We're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance led by Commissioner Lipke today. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Jeez. I feel like Pavlov. You smack the gavel and everybody jumps up. Do we have any additions to the agenda?
Nothing today, Mr. Chair.
We have none. I'd entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
We have a motion. We have a second by Lipke. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. We have no introduction of new employees today, so we would jump to the consent agenda. Are there any items that you would seek to remove? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
We have a motion.
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Carrie, all calling Carrie. Who's doing the pitch? We are at the MnDOT spiel. I have Carrie Zempel as my.
Oh, no.
Oh no. Oh no. We have the big guns today.
Right, we maybe didn't get all the names.
Sorry. Okay, that's who was on my list. So
If you don't mind, I'll pull up a chair.
please bring as many chairs as you feel appropriate.
Oh, appreciate that.
And when we are prepared, then I'd ask those at the dais to introduce themselves and who they are representing, and then proceed with your presentation at your leisure.
All right. Well, thank you all for the board for seeing us here today. We appreciate this opportunity. It's also an opportunity for your first, so we'll fine tune our presentation for the other 12 that we make. But we've been here for, coming back for 5 years now and appreciate the time. I'm Greg Oss, I'm the district engineer. With me today is Rhonda Allah, she's our district planning engineer. In the audience here today, we have Peter Harf as the assistant district engineer for project delivery. And we have Lisa Bingham, who's the acting state aid engineer. We want to thank you all. I think we have is Region 9 here? No. Okay. I haven't met him yet, so I need to find, because we brought Sam Parker into our office and he's our assistant planning director. So I haven't met the new Region 9 person yet. So, but anyhow. So again, we just want to take a few minutes with you, kind of review our 10-year program. You get a good idea of where we're at, and then we'll talk about some of the things we've been doing. We have a manufacturer's perspective, a little bit about the legislative session, and then we'll talk specifically about little things like potholes and all the other little features that are out there that are definitely impacting our season this year. And what we're going to be doing about it. We have some plans to see what we can do to extend the life of some of these road surfaces. So again, I want to thank you for allowing us to come in today. And let's see, let's go 1, 2. Let's go to the next one, please. In your packet here today, we have the PowerPoint presentation we'll be talking about. We also have our STIP, which is a 4-year program. We have our CHIP, which is a 10-year program. And we'll also be talking about where we're at for funding and the dollars that we're coming into our system. You know, just as a bit of a refresher for you all, the STIP is a statewide transportation improvement program. It covers the next 4 years. It's the projects that are programmed, that are planned, that are funded. The commitment is there to bring those plans to the letting. We have usually see very few changes in the projects that are in the STIP. Then there's the capital program, which is that 5 to 10 year program, and we update both of these plans every year so that you can see what's coming into the program. You can see what's on our radar. And particularly, this is the good opportunity to discuss what's on, what projects you're looking at, what projects we're looking at, like for instance on the 99, the work we need to do on 99 and the work that you're doing on 13, how do those projects play together? And then also what's new and what we're seeing as deficiencies on our system, whether it be traffic and or pavement surface or bridge condition. Next. Here is just a little bit of synopsis of the dollars that we see coming at us. The areas that in the first 4 years is a STIP, that's committed dollars, and then the out years is what we're planning for. You can see that we just came off a $147 million program. You can see that we're going to be fluctuating around $80 million, and actually our lowest program year is probably going to be in the $50 million out here in 2025, and then it'll be growing back up. That green line that you see there is the statewide preservation program. That's the dollars that fluctuate the most. That's the dollars that go towards the the roads that are part of the NHS or the National Highway System, the interstate. And then that area in blue there, that's what we call the DRNP funds, which is the more, it serves the non-NHS program. It also pays for right-of-way, it pays for supplemental agreements, it pays for all those other things. So you can kind of see that stays stagnant over time, and the dollars that come at us for the statewide programs are the ones that are fluctuating. Here's just a little bit of a funding scenario, just trying to help you to better capture where the funding goes and what the planning, the MNCHIP planning was. MNCHIP, if you recall, it's the 20-year look. It's the big look out. Where should we be spending our dollars? That's we take that and we bring that to the state. We have focus groups on it. We talk about it. Where should we be spending our dollars? Where should we be spending our resources? When we did this back for the 2013 STIP or MNCHIP, that's where we were talking about more expansion type projects, more mobility projects. But we could also see on the horizon where preservation was going to be our issue, bridge condition, bridge replacement was going to be part of our issues going forward. The 2018 did make that shift, went back towards preservation, went back towards bridge preservation and rehab and replacement. And now we're also putting more of an emphasis on the ADA. We have a goal in our transition plan to get to full compliance by 2037. And we're already planning out here in 29, so we're not that far away. Right now we're showing our ability to get where we need to for the ADA plan, but we also see constraints on the system in terms of the amount of roads that we're seeing that are deteriorating. As you witnessed well here in Nicollet County alone, the deterioration that we saw this last year, we saw that system-wide across our 13-county area. It's impressive to me that we have placed over 1,200 ton of material by hand in potholes throughout the district. And in this area alone, over 300 ton of material has been placed by hand, and we're not there yet. I'm well aware that there's still holes out there. I'm well aware that we need to get out there. We've literally been going and patching the big holes first and coming back and getting the nuisance holes. And we have some plans to extend the surface life of some of those roads to get them to the day that we can replace them. This year alone, we've had 5 road segments that we've had to go in and either do a thin mill and overlay or a straight overlay, or what we plan on doing on 22 is what's called a micro surface, is that we're going to come in and once we get the road patched out, we're going to come in and put another surface on top of it, and it's literally just to keep the water out and to hold those chunks together. And we know that. So those are unfortunate, because that's a fair amount of money for a very short period of time, and that's not how we like to do business, but we've all seen this coming for many years.
What do you expect that life to be on your microsurfacing? What's your experience?
I'm hoping to get to 2025. So it's not the intent of microsurfacing.
Right.
The intent is to extend surface life, but it appears to us to be something that we can use to hold things together. So that's what our goal is.
Thank you.
So when you go to this slide here, it's unfortunate that we are well represented on that slide, and we're represented by that largest red bar on there showing our percent poor. And that is the non-NHS. That's the percent of our pavements that are representing in the poor ride quality, as you know well, here in this area and in this region. It's been a continuing trend. We've been here before and we've been talking about this, and so we continue to try to manage the last years of the life of these pavements, and we're having to change how much we spend in those last years. Used to be in the past you'd be patching more, but now we have to actually do more than that just to hold them together, and so that's part of where we're at, and that's part of our concerns going forward. So what I'd like for Rhonda to do is just kind of run through the current projects that are impacting Nicollet County in the current program and the STIP and the CHIP years. So Rhonda, if you wouldn't mind doing that for us.
Sure, and if you haven't already started digging through your packet, it might be easier for you to pull out the larger maps as we go through some of these projects. So they're in your PowerPoint presentation as well, but in the packet behind the PowerPoint presentation, you'll find a number of different maps. And first one that you're going to find is just our current construction program for 2019. Excuse me. You can see the one impact really to the Nicollet County area will be the continued work on the Highway 1415 interchange bridge project over in the New Ulm area. Other than that, you can see just across the district, happy to answer questions you may have on any other projects, but minimal impacts to the county as a whole in our current construction season. But if you then transition over to the next map in your packet, you will see it's going to be the one that in the legend talks about the 2020 through 2022 projects. And again, taking a look on that, you can see we have some work coming up on Highway 14 from Cortland to Nicollet, and that's just some preservation work at this point. We have continued work then out of Nicollet on Highway 99 over to Highway 169. And if you follow the little call-out boxes, you can see what type of work that involves as well as the estimated cost for each of those projects. So what we're looking at right now on Highway 99, starting at roughly Birch Street in Nicollet over to 169 in St. Peter. That'll be a mill and overlay, and it'll also be replacing a bridge along that, some lighting and some ADA work, and that's about a $5.4 million project. And then we have a lot of work happening on the 111 Highway 22 segment. So you can see that's coming up in 2020. And we're looking at a reclamation project on that one. So that's going to be a little bit more involved than just a mill and overlay. And it's going to also include some wider shoulders on this segment of Highway 111. It's been identified on the district bike plan as one of our bike routes across the district, and it's our understanding that potentially County Road 5 will in the future has also been identified as a potential bike route. So we're hoping that by putting the shoulders in now on 111, it would align well with some work that may come on County 5 in the future.
Mr. Chair, Rhonda, if I could just interrupt, so, and maybe Greg has the answer, the other engineers here, how long has it been since 111 has had any kind of treatment that allows it now to be a washboard, or I don't know what description we can put on it?
I don't know right offhand when the last research.
And I can't remember either, so.
It was in my lifetime, I know that.
Okay.
But
You're
I'm
a young
thinking-
man.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we can do, Jack, we also have in the audience with us Angie from our planning staff. And Angie actually is a St. Peter resident, so she met us over here and she's feverishly taking notes on anything that comes up today. So we'll look into that for you. We can get you back some information on kind of the history of the 111 pavement and the
Right,
last
well,
time
I
that work
mean,
was done.
that really needs, man, that needs help.
Yeah.
I'm glad you recognize that.
Mr.
Yeah,
Chair, a
definitely.
couple questions.
Commissioner Lipke?
Jack's correct on that. I'm also wondering, the 14 between Cortland and Nicollet, that's gonna be in 2021.
As of right now, yes, that's a 2021 project.
Pretty bad already.
Yep.
As bad as others.
Yep.
That's the reality of it.
It gets a lot of use though.
Well, I understand it.
Good follow-up.
Commissioner.
Thank you,
And
Mr.
then the other question I had is, any idea when County Road 21 will be able to hook into the Y intersection in New Ulm? I
That-
know the bridge isn't gonna be done for
No,
quite a
actually, the
while.
bridge is on a good path over there right now, so there's a lot of work that's been done, was just through there, so I would anticipate here, early fall, that portion will be open. The bridge is over the river is a bit concerning for us right now,
Okay.
with how long we've been out, of the river due to flooding.
But you don't see 21 opening to 14 down there till at least fall?
I would say early fall.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There's going to be a general theme, I think, as Rhonda goes through the map, so I think if I can ask the general
Please.
question. Greg, you said earlier deterioration is across the district. We've all seen this coming for many years. What is happening in terms of our roads? Is deterioration getting worse? I know in the future we're going to be moving to a maintenance only or maintenance priority in the future. What's happening to our roads that we're getting to 111 and 14 and the like?
So for what we're noticing, and you know, I'm originally from northern Minnesota where it got cold and stayed cold, which is the best thing that can happen for a pavement. When we're getting more and more of these freeze-thaw cycles that are fluctuating back and forth over 32 as our general climate is changing, or we're just seeing temporary, that's, in my mind, it's still just a temporary thing where we're seeing warmer temperatures coming up and you're seeing more rains come up further into our southern Minnesota, and particularly those that are happening in cold weather where you have a rain event or a high moisture content event in snow and then a plummeting deep freeze within days. There's no time for that water to come out of the pavements, and it's just causing what we've all experienced through time, and it just seems to be accelerating these days. So our goal is to do our best to get our surfaces sealed up. It's just general good practice is to get your surfaces sealed so you don't have that exposure, and trying to do that in such a way that it minimizes. I think 2 years ago we did 170 miles of seal coats. Last year we did 180 miles of seal coats. We're not going to be able to do that much this year just because of the amount of patching that we have, but we're really trying to stay ahead of that portion of it. So that's you know, then we're just, our roads surfaces are getting old, and we need to get in there as best we can. We've changed our course. We talked about that a few years ago where we're going in and we're using the technologies of cold mill recycle in place so that we get away from not just putting an overlay on it anymore. We get rid of those cracks, we get rid of the deterioration, try to build off of a new base. We're trying to incorporate that more. It's been a good tool for the counties for many years. Definitely worked on the low volume roads, and we've seen that same ability to use it on a high volume road and getting the same life, predicted life out of them. So we talk about this statewide, and we talk about our really high bar statewide, and you know, what can and what should we do about it from a statewide perspective. When I first came back in 12, we were at about a $40 million a year district. So the state has provided additional resources to us. We're averaging about 80 these days, but still you can see it's not keeping up. So.
Well, and I think, Mr. Chair, if I might, just as Rhonda talks about the future projects here, I think it's important to have that context of there are weather things happening to our roads that you are trying to battle, as are we at the county.
Yep. Yeah, we share in this, I'm certain of it.
Anything else? Please
All
continue,
right, so
Ron.
we'll just continue on. So kind of still looking at that highway, or the 2020 to 2022 map. Just want to go over a few changes. So as Greg said, this is something we've been coming before the commissioners each year for the last few years presenting, and want to maybe just highlight some of the major changes that we're seeing from last year's to this year's. So last year we had Highway 22 from 169 to 111 in our draft STIP, or our ATIP, in 2022. You will now see that that's moved out to 2024. And a lot of that has to do with adequate time to work on the negotiation of the potential turnback of that roadway segment. So as Greg indicated, in the meantime, we will be looking at doing a short-term fix on it this summer. But that has been pushed out to 2024. We are also adding to this coming summer's work some minor improvements on 169 northbound from roughly Chestnut to Union. Taking, again, this are one of the areas that Greg talked about really did not winter very well. So we're doing a short-term fix this summer and then still have it in our program for a longer-term fix in 2022. We have moved the 169 intersection improvement at Highway 22 from We had something in there, undefined what the fix would be. It was in 2022 originally. If you look at, there's another map in your packet that just shows what our new projects coming into the program for 2023. You'll see that out there right now we have a potential improvement at the south end, so the 169, 22, 99 area. We're looking at some type of intersection improvement potentially at that area coming into our 4-year program as well. So those are kind of the major changes that you'll see from last year to this year and the new project moving in. And then the last map that I want to draw your attention to is the one that's going to have the 2024 to 2029. And as Greg noted in his opening comments, this is what we refer to as our CHIP, or our Capital Highway Investment Plan. So unlike the STIP that we have dedicated funding for, we do not have dedicated funding for these. We've been given general targets by our central office. Those targets are updated every year, so that's why we have to update the plan each year to accommodate our new funding targets. So based on those targets, these are kind of the projects that are on our radar right now. And so as I mentioned, you can see Highway 22, that segment that's potentially a turnback. We've moved it from 22 to 24, so you'll see that identified in our 6 years of planned projects as a potential 2024. And then we have on Highway 169, the Nicollet County portions between Riverfront Drive and Lake Street Northwest move from 2024 out through 2027, out to 2027. So you can see we have some work planned on Highway 169. We're actually right now working in partnership with MAPO, the Mankato North Mankato Area Planning Organization, to look at a corridor study along that entire segment of 169. It would start on the south end where 60 and 169 kind of go in different directions and take us all the way up to roughly Happy Chef. So once that study is completed, we'll have a better idea of what type of improvements we'd be looking at along that segment. And so we pushed it out a little bit just to give adequate time for this study to occur. We're also looking in 2024 at some improvements. I realize this is outside of the Nicollet County area, but I think it may have a major impact to your county. But we're looking at an intersection improvement down at Augusta Drive and Highway 22, and that will be a roundabout at that location. And then the same year, we're going to start at roughly County Road 57 or Riverfront Drive and do some pavement work, yet to be determined what that will be as well. We don't know, as Greg said, dollars are limited, pavements are bad. Are we just going to come through and do a pavement preservation project, or is there something more that we'd be looking at with that project? So that's currently in its scoping phase, and we'll have a better idea of what that project will be about this time next year. So those are the major impacts here to Nicollet County. Any questions, anything spark interest to you on the map that you want to ask
I hear
about?
all sorts of pattering here, so.
I'll patter first and then patter second. Greg, I'm going to say something you've probably heard me say for over a decade. I don't see Highway 14 between Nicollet and New Ulm on any of these maps, and I see the CHIP moves. CHIP is, I think, emphasizing maintenance. No new, no expansion in the materials you provide us. There's no light at the end of the tunnel for Highway 14 between Nicollet and New Ulm?
I don't know if it's a light, but one of the things I should mention is that, and it's on your docket here today, is the opportunity to at least apply for a build grant. That would be our 25, previously it was called the Tiger Grant, and it was utilized to do a major project in Wilmer this last go around called the Wilmer Y, where it was providing better connections between BNSF and the trunk highways and the local streets. We've been given direction to apply for the build grant for our Nicollet to New Ulm project, and that's the call I was taking, just before the meeting here, feverishly making calls on the way over. There was I went in front of our executive leadership team, and just to confirm, projects will have to move in order to pay for it. There's still a $50 million gap in the Highway 14 project, but they wanted to go forward with it. So they talked about the strategies for filling that gap, and got word today that we're gonna continue forward with the build grant proposal. So we appreciate that and appreciate your support and assistance as you consider that. So there is just a glimmer of hope that if that would come through, we would be able to leverage that 25 million and make it and be able to finish out Highway 14. Outside of that, there is no additional money. We continue to do the work to be prepared for money. We're getting ourselves to the point here, we've been continuing to work on it to get to what we call a 30% plan. So basically, we know where the road alignment is, we know what our issues are. We're able to go and talk to landowners about land that we'd be purchasing if we got the go-ahead, and we'll be prepared to do that here in August. Then it's something that we can set aside. We're ready to go, and then we also have our environmental document reevaluation is in the process of being finalized also, so that we would be prepared as prepared can be if additional money became forward. So if something broke loose from either a corridors or commerce perspective here in the future, or build grant, we are as prepared as we can be to be able to bring that to a build.
And Mr. Chair, if I might, I want to thank you all. I know you want to do this project, so I'm not pointing a finger, but expressing a frustration.
Appreciate it.
Well, I'm gonna echo what Terry said, and I'll tell you right away, I haven't had any thistle complaint calls yet, but the thistles are growing fast, and I'll be getting calls.
Write that down.
We should have that on the record.
So I'll talk to you and Seth right
So
now.
all I heard is no complaints.
So far. Once they start blooming, the phone will be ringing.
Yep.
Did you have something, Jackie? You being our transit guru?
Oh, well, it's great to hear the report from MnDOT. I mean, I view us as really important partners as we look forward. One thing that struck me today, and I think Terry brought it up too, it seems like us older Minnesotans and us and our roads have a real similarity. None of us are wintering well, as you put it. We just had, our highway department had an invention of a super truck we were just informed about today. Is there any new road material that could be used or employed in the construction of roads that would answer this phenomenon of this cracking and causing all of these issues that we're looking at?
So there is, and there has continued to be a lot of research done in this area, and there are small changes that have been made over time, modifying the oils so that they have that ability to still stay together and not rut, but yet provide you the flexibility for thermal expansion and contraction. I think the work that the counties have been doing for a while and that we're glomming onto here is with being able to recycle what's in place and create a new base and put a new surface on that is going to help us in the long run. I think our biggest struggle has been with not being able to do things like that. The reflective cracking that came through was just accelerated over time, and you can see that on different roads when we aren't able to do that, how quickly a crack reflects back through. But we're trying different things, we're trying different opportunities. You've been doing them, the unbonded concrete overlays. You have an initial increased cost up front, but the service life of them has been phenomenal lately. Early in my career, we were putting in pavements that we are definitely having to replace already. And so with the ASR, which was the reaction between the silica and the rocks and the cement, so we've been doing a lot of work to make our pavements better. And then the patching materials, if anyone comes up with a good patch material, you'll be very rich. But the most recent, what we've been able to do with, I'm going to drop the name now, but Mastix, which is a combination of a heavy oil and rocks, and it's a flowable fill. Has been able to really give us good patching, good durability. Some of the problems we have is that the pavement continues to deteriorate, even though we seal it, even though we fix it, or at least fill the hole. it just continues to deteriorate around it, and then the whole shooting match comes out again, so.
I think it's worth reminding ourselves that these folks in our county highway departments live in a world where people complain when there's construction and people complain when the roads are poor.
Mhm.
And you have about, what, 4 months to do it when you're doing the construction work. So, you know, we understand.
Yeah. No, there still is a lot of days when we can do the right thing and that we can all center around and celebrate that, and that's always a good thing, so. We have a few moments that are pretty
Mr.
good.
Chair, question and a comment.
Please.
A lot of good compliments about Highway 14 from Nicollet to Mankato.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
very nice, smooth road, traffic moves well. You ever try that soybean oil on the pavement?
On the pavement, no, not that I'm aware of. It might be in research, I don't know that.
Oh, it is.
It's
A company on Mountain Lake that applies it.
Yeah.
Apparently they haven't been contacting me.
Well, we have our own research facility that's a
Oh.
nationwide facility up there at Monticello, the test track.
Okay.
And I can double check to see if that's made it in there yet.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have anything else from the board? Did you have anything else that
Just
we
a
forgot
couple
to ask you?
of, just a
Greg?
couple of things. As you know well, we have retimed the signals here in St. Peter. We're still getting feedback on that. Our hope is that it is a better system. I think that that'll be telling in time. It's really some of the first steps. I'm getting a no. Okay, a shaking
I
no.
I cross the street on foot. It's difficult.
Okay.
It's
Well, those are the
really
kinds of
difficult.
things we need to hear.
You get hung up in the middle, and
Mhm.
thankfully there's flower planters to use as a bench while you're waiting for traffic.
Okay.
Because nobody stops for pedestrians anymore. That's part of the problem.
That is, you're correct.
Sounds like a sheriff issue.
Yeah, I didn't say yep to the sheriff issue. So we have that going on. Rumor has it that the traffic during the air show was better this last go around, so I think we always learn from our previous attempts. Again, like I talked before, the build grant, I have a few positives, the build grant. And then I just want to thank Jack for your leadership that you've provided on the ATP and your constant voice of the looking for funding, asking for funding, looking for different ways to get more funding into the system, so we appreciate that. And as always, been great working with Seth on a lot of different issues, coordination, what to do, working together on your different issues. He's done an excellent job in securing a lot of federal dollars for your 12 project, and that's not easy to do. And just want to make sure that from our perspective, we can see that was a lot of good work, and thank him for that. So,
Anything else? Rhonda, you have anything else?
Just maybe to wrap up especially the projects that we're looking at in the CHIP in that 2024 and 2025 timeframe, which most of them here in Nicollet County are impacted by 2024. To give you a little idea of timing, so the hope is that as we work through scoping these projects now, these next 6 months or so, I had indicated we'll have a better idea of what we'll be able to bring into next year's 4-year program. So the plan right now is we'll be coming out and meeting with any communities that we have in our years 5 and 6 of this plan, so 2024, 2025 projects. And we'll start digging into a little more detail on them, right? What are the local needs? Are there utility issues? Development that may be happening along the highway? Anything like that that will help our project manager scope that project and determine what the appropriate fix will be. We will then be selecting which projects will move into the STIP in about the March or April timeframe of 2020. So when we're back here next year, meeting in front of you, we'll be able to tell you whether or not for sure those projects have moved forward and will be going into our 4-year program. So that's just kind of our time frame moving forward on those.
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Lipke.
I had the pleasure of meeting your state archaeologist Saturday night.
Oh.
He was out looking at the road, County Road 12, Timothy
Oh.
Tumberg.
Okay.
So you got him working on a Saturday night. Hopefully you're not paying him overtime.
I will check. My guess he was passing through the area.
He was looking about digging some holes.
Yep, that's their job.
Archaeologists like to do
Yep. I was just looking at the slide deck, and just to round out our presentation here today, over the last year, we did do some manufacturer perspective studies where we went and talked to manufacturers. We'll be bringing that information back to you next year. I would be remiss from TZD towards zero def program perspective if I didn't, mention the hands-free bill that was passed that'll go into effect here on August 1st. We think that'll be a significant way to help us get at the distracted driver, to be able to make that enforceable action, and to take another opportunity to reduce our fatalities statewide. We've plateaued for the last few years. We're a little bit below last year at this time, but again, one is too many fatalities on the road. So again, I thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. I do have one question on the designs, and as technology moves forward, we've talked about design, road design, all of those things. How does the trend, it's albeit slow, moving toward autonomous vehicles, how does that impact our road design, and how does that impact the maintenance of those roads? Are there some things that we see in the future about how that's going to impact those things also?
Where I see the biggest impact in the initial phase is just like what we're doing here in St. Peter with being able to manage the signals with smart systems that know the flow of traffic, and then taking into consideration that pedestrian, how we're going to make all that work for the better of the system. And really where I see it initially is the increased volume because of the ability to platoon or manage where vehicles are at. You're already seeing it with adaptive cruise control. The industry is really pushing. We're in the position to needing to understand what their needs are, what do we need to put into our systems so that we can communicate with each other, vehicle to vehicle and then system to vehicle. So here in St. Peter was the first, in my mind, the first step towards that, and we'll learn a lot from that. Now, as far as the roads, we need to continue to research what's it take. We're seeing good luck with our pavements, good life with our pavements. Our concrete right now, we're getting the life that we had expected out of them, so that's a good thing.
Well, again, I want to thank you and everyone in your staff for the time you spend just putting all this together. And it is very helpful for those of us that don't deal with this daily. You know acronyms that we will forget as soon as you walk out the door, but always your work and your efforts here to communicate this to ourselves and then ultimately us to our constituency is very important in that connection. So I want to thank you on behalf of the board and all of the citizens of Nicollet County. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Much
Have a dandy
appreciated.
day.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you. And my goodness, we're back on time. Thank you, Greg.
Yep, thank you.
Do we have any public appearances? Do we have any public appearances? Going once, going twice. We see no one here for public appearances. And I think we have some property and public services issues. And there she is, in her coral this morning.
Bright coral.
Good morning.
Good morning. I do have one item that I will take care of, and then John will take the conditional use permit. The item that I do have for you is the appointment of Justin Lavin to the Planning and Zoning Advisory Commission and the Board of Adjustment and Appeals. Within your packet, I do have a copy of a map indicating the location of our current members. The yellow indicates the current Planning and Zoning members. The green indicates our commissioner and commissioner alternate. And then Justin is located in the blue. The reason that we decided to go ahead and recommend Justin is he is a resident of the city of Nicollet at this time. He is constructing a home in Nicollet Township. Justin also is a certified licensed electrician. He is familiar with building code, which we are experiencing a lot of issues with it. And he also is a volunteer member of the Nicollet Fire Department, which would help us with a lot of our conditional use permits as they come through with it. We did look at a couple of other applicants that we have received. As far as their location or their background, it didn't fit into what we were looking at this time, but we will keep those applicants on file. This will bring us up to a total of 6 members. We still have one vacancy, and we are continuing to look for individuals that are in our gap spots within the county as based on the map. So today, I am requesting approval of the appointment of Justin Lavin.
I'd entertain a motion for that approval.
So moved.
We have a motion.
Second. Go ahead.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. And we have our advisory committee.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I just have the one request for your consideration today, and that is the request of applicant USS Flower LLC and property owners John and Eileen Bloom for a conditional use permit to establish a large solar energy system. The site is located in Nicollet Township and is zoned agricultural. The location was selected due to its solar resources and its proximity to the existing distribution facilities. The system will occupy up to 10 acres of land and will have a maximum capacity of 1 megawatt. 1 megawatt is roughly enough electricity to power 225 homes annually. The solar panels will be ground mounted and they will rotate to track the sun across the sky throughout the day. Construction is expected to take 3 to 4 months. They did submit a decommissioning plan once the life frame has expired there. The proposal appears to meet all applicable setbacks and standards of the zoning ordinance and the renewable energy ordinance. That no public comments were received and there was no public testimony during the hearing. After due consideration, the commission voted unanimously to recommend approval of the request. Mr. Chair, staff seeks a motion to approve the request and the attached findings and facts.
I move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any additional discussion?
Mr. Chair. This is the opportunity on Monday night when I got to sit in for Maria and I got to learn a little bit about the project, and it's a fascinating project. And one thing you didn't mention that I really was taken by was the pollinator field that will be
yes.
underneath the panels, and the idea of the panels tilting. I was interested to learn that also gets the snow off them. And I thought that was a thing I had not
Increases
thought.
their effectiveness in
Increases
the
their
winter
effect-
months then also.
And it was good to hear about the decommissioning plan as well. So thank you.
And so not all of the fields we have are positioning type. Most of the ones we have are fixed angle.
Most
right?
of them are fixed, yeah.
Okay, so this is somewhat new territory, at least in our area.
For a 1 megawatt, yeah,
Right,
it is.
okay.
Yeah.
Less maintenance, but more potential. Or more,
Other
ma-
way-
more,
other
ma- more
way,
maintenance.
More maintenance, greater potential, okay.
Mhm.
Anything else? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion's passed unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to ask Mandy, the 10 o'clock we have a hearing that's advertised, correct? So we should work around that since we're a little ahead of schedule.
And
Jump
so
forward.
we have the deputy registrar's reimbursement grant, which we can jump to. Is that, oh, she is there. I didn't see that.
That's okay, ma'am.
Sit in the back, you were hiding behind Sheriff, I know.
Morning, Mr. Chair and
Good
members of the
morning.
board.
Morning.
As you're aware, in the 2019 legislative session, there was $13 million approved for the local deputy registrars to receive a reimbursement grant based on the MNLAR's default. So in your packet, the state has given us our award letter, and our award given to us by the state is $49,979.53, and it's in the form of a reimbursement grant. So attached in your packet is the reimbursement grant application that I'm asking for approval on. There is as well as a liability release form that I'm asking approval on as well to be signed. Both these forms have been reviewed by the county attorney, and just a little side note on that, this has a deadline to be into the state by June 30th. So DPS has been struggling with the forms. That we've gotten 2 revisions of them already. And the deadline is still June 30th. So anybody that doesn't get their application in before June 30th will not be eligible for the money. But it is $49,979.53. So I would ask the board to approve both those forms for the reimbursement grant and the liability release form.
Mr. Chair, I'll move approval.
We have a
Second.
motion, we have a second. Any other discussion?
Oh,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
you gotta do one to get the other? I mean, you gotta do them both?
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Madam County Attorney?
I just want to clarify and make sure that the board understands that there's the waiver. So while they title it as a grant, it is not truly a grant, it's a settlement payment, and I'm not suggesting that means you should or shouldn't do that, but I want to be clear about the language that we're using in approving the document. It's misleading to deem it a grant versus a settlement payment.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner?
This is probably the unanswerable question.
Mhm.
I have no idea what their potential liability is for
Mhm.
the Minlars rollout.
Mhm.
Is $49,000 a reasonable number?
It was described to us that it was comprised of 10% of the 13 million was equally distributed to all the deputies, and the other was a formula with how many transactions we do here at Nicollet County and based on our fees. I would say that I'd say Nicollet County is fortunate that we don't have a standalone office for deputy registrar's office. Some of the private offices that have standalone they are only relying on those fees for their income to pay their bills. Took a very substantial hit, but we are a multifunction office, so we're still doing other items as well. So it, in my opinion, I believe it is for us. I don't know if it's for everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Jackie.
Mr. Chair, if you'd like, we could take our break now, or we could move other items up on the agenda.
What is the pleasure of the board?
Let's take our break and come back.
Okay.
5 minutes, yeah.
We will take a break and we will reconvene at 10 o'clock when we have a scheduled public hearing.
And if you want 10 minutes, Mr. Chair, you could go till 10:05, that's fine.
Okay.
And we're back from our break. I feel like I've just done the news here for some reason. And so, we have scheduled our public hearing to consider the repeal and adoption of the Nicollet County 911 ordinance. Ms. Landcamer is back before us to take us through that process.
Good morning again, Mr.
Good
Chair,
morning.
members of the
Thank
board.
you.
Today, I actually ask you to consider the repeal of the street sign maintenance and primary structure address ordinance known as the 911 ordinance. It was originally adopted on March 13th of 27. I am asking to have that repealed and proposing to adopt the ordinance that's within your packet. Just a little history on the process that we have gone through the last 1.5 to 2 years. We've had an internal committee comprised of the county attorney's office, members of the sheriff's department, property services, property assessment, emergency management, and also public works. And we've been meeting on and off to discuss the proposed amendment to the 911 ordinance. After several meetings, we did come up with a proposal that we feel confident will address our concerns, specifically addressing the lack of 911 signing for our hunting jacks. As you may have seen last week on the Swan Lake tour, Swan Lake is a very unique property, and any type of emergency services out there, unless you're very familiar with it, is difficult both to find and then also for the individual to know where they're located with it. And this has been a problem for some time, and we feel that this ordinance will address many of those concerns. We are recommending the repeal of the ordinance, and that's specifically because it was a format change. It was just going to be a lot easier to follow through. There are 3 sections that are new to the ordinance. I did highlight them specifically in the agenda item, section 403.2, and this is in reference to the hunting shack location address sign. Typically, when a 911 sign is posted, it's very specific location by the mailbox with dimensions and inches as far as the location with it. We know that it is not possible always to have a clearly signed hunting shack, so this is the optional location where it may be a sign and post, or it may be the placement on the actual hunting shack. Of the 3 major cluster developments, the shacks are a little bit differently located. Some are really easy to see in close proximity to each other. Other ones are separated by dense vegetation, so it's difficult to see them. So this will give the opportunity for staff to make the best judgment call out there and place a 911 sign for services to be responded to. The next item that we are proposing for the addition is section 401.1 and 2. It's for the road realignment. This is to address concerns when a road is realigned, who is going to be responsible for paying for the sign and placement of the sign with it. So it's just kind of clarifying some concerns that have happened over the last couple of years. And the last portion that we are recommending for inclusion is 405, sections 1, 2, and 3, and this is a township sign responsibility. Again, this is just clarifying the responsibilities of who will be responsible and how the township will be responsible for the activities with the signage with that. So those are the three major changes within the proposed ordinance. Again, it is a repeal of the existing one and then an adoption of the new one with those three additions with it. We have not, just to mention too, that we did meet with the hunting shack cluster owners to let them know that this was going to be coming out and that they were aware of it. We did have 2 out of the 3 represented, and they were comfortable with the proposal that we have planned with the 911 addressing with it. So I just want to let you know that too.
This is a public hearing, so I would open the public hearing. Are there any individuals in the gallery that would like to speak to this issue? I see no movement. I will ask for the second time, is there anyone that would like to speak to this issue? Hearing none, I will close the public hearing and I will ask the board their wishes in regard to this, or would certainly entertain a motion to get this on the table to discuss.
Mr. Chair, I'll move the enhanced 911 ordinance, which includes the repeal in the language.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it, and I have a question.
We have a motion and a second. Commissioner Lipke, you have a question?
The townships are on board with this?
They've received some information with it. Did mention it at the last Township Association meeting. I believe that would have been last fall. There wasn't a lot of discussion, but there has been a concern over the last couple of years of how it's played out and who is responsible. So it just really will clear up the roles and responsibilities.
But you haven't got anything negative?
Nothing negative.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else?
Mr. Chair, Mandy, didn't one of the clusters for the hunting shacks have a gate always that we couldn't get through? There's maybe a question for Sheriff Lang. Is that the 2 of them?
There's actually 2 of them. Nelson's Point does have a gate, and they are signed with it, so there is some issues with that. It's just arranging access to it. Shook's Point, or Block's Point, that is also gated, and that is one that's more concern because it is the dense vegetation out there. Shook does supply the Sheriff's Department with a key for access.
So they can continue to gate that because it's a private road, I'm assuming? It's not township, so.
Correct, it's a private road.
Did they provide that to the township too? Or the fire departments, I'm sorry, the fire departments?
I don't believe so. The sheriff does have a key though.
I'm guessing if they need to get there bad enough, they can find their way through the gate.
Yes.
There's 2 keys at work. It's a key and a bolt cutter.
Exactly.
Right. Thank you.
Anything else? Let's do a roll call vote on this.
Commissioner Morrow?
Yes.
Lipke?
Yes.
Randall? Yes.
Yes.
Camp.
Yes. Motion's passed unanimously. Thank you very much for your work and your committee's work. It's greatly appreciated. Thank you, Mandy. Well, let's see. Where are we? I see Cassie. There she is. Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
I have a few things on the agenda this morning. I'll start with our Substance Use Coalition fiscal request. So Nicollet County staff members participate in the newly formed Substance Use Coalition, focusing on education and outreach to prevent youth substance abuse in Nicollet County. Last month, the board appointed a commissioner to this coalition. Let me back up here. SAMHSA, so the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, is offering a grant for these types of purposes through their Drug-Free Communities Support Program. The coalition is interested in applying for this grant, and it's in the amount of $125,000 per year for 5 years. This grant would be used to pay for a coalition coordinator, training, 2 additional Take It to the Box purchases for prescription medications to be dropped off, ID scanners that would be stored in the sheriff's office and utilized for county events so that we can rely on scanners rather than volunteers needing to check IDs, as well as preventative curriculum for our school districts. After the grant expires, we can apply for a planning and implementation grant, which is actually in a higher amount for another 5 years. After that point, our goal would be that the infrastructure to support education and prevention is really built in our county, and at that point, we would need to determine any future investments in maintaining a position related to this coalition. In addition, the coalition has received a stipend of $750 from SAMHSA for the community's talk, town hall meetings to prevent underage drinking. So our request for the coalition would be for Nicollet County to serve as the fiscal host so that we're able to apply for this grant.
So moved.
We have a motion.
Second.
We have a second.
And Mr. Chair, with the motion, it would be serve as fiscal host and then authorization to apply for the grants. The board should authorize that.
That's good.
That's my motion.
Acceptable.
Correct. I would need to have permission to sign the grant paperwork, which would be us authorizing that we would provide office space, financial reports and records, and payroll for the coordinator.
That's still
That's still my
acceptable?
motion.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item.
My second item. So Nicollet County Health and Human Services enters into annual cooperative agreements with several schools and daycare facilities in our county. These agreements allow for our public health nurses to provide and bill for services required at these facilities throughout the year. So the schools included in the request are Emmanuel Lutheran School, Lafayette Charter School, John Ireland, Minnesota Valley Education District, St. Peter Evangelical Lutheran School, Trinity Lutheran School, and Nicollet Public Schools. The services that our nurses provide in the schools are vision, hearing, and scoliosis screenings, accessibilities for students to receive health guidance, emergency plans, dental varnishing, and consultation. The daycare facilities included in this request are Montessori Learning Center, Peter Pan Preschool and Childcare, Kids Corner Childcare, Nicollet Early Childhood Center, Trinity Daycare and Preschool. And our services at the daycares include annual review of state policies and procedures, observations, training, and completing assessments for health hazards. The changes to these agreements for this year include only the timeframes and a language change to be Health and Human Services rather than Public Health. So I am requesting that rather than submit 12 separate documents to the board for the cooperative agreements, that I have authorization to sign these 12 agreements.
I'll move approval.
We have a motion.
I'll second.
We have a second. Any other discussion, any questions?
There other schools are welcome, or?
So other schools would have nursing on site. So these schools don't have a large enough need to have a full-time nurse. So they're broken down by percentage. So our school nurse spends 74% of the time at the Nicollet Public Schools, and then the others are broken down in 5, 6, and 3.
And like MVL, they have a nurse? I don't think so.
That I
Or
am
this-
not sure.
Is it just for younger children mainly?
I guess I don't know the answer to that. No.
Well, could you make an inquiry?
I absolutely can,
Thank
yes.
you.
Mhm.
I'm good.
Anything else? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. And our third item.
Our third item, yes. So I'd just like to point out that Dale is here to answer any technology-related questions in this request. So this is a lengthier request. This is in follow-up to our Caseworks presentation at the board workshop in March. So at that time, Next Chapter Technology provided an overview of Caseworks, so I won't provide the detailed description of the software itself, but I can answer questions regarding that software. In summary, Caseworks is an electronic document storage system built for Minnesota Health and Human Services agencies. Currently, 24 Minnesota counties use Caseworks, and they are in conversation with several more. I just want to reiterate that this is a unique program in that it doesn't just store our data, but it exchanges data with the state systems, which makes that very helpful to our agency. Storing our data in this program would promote customer service, efficiency, and mobility for our workers. This request today is for phase 1 of Caseworks implementation. This is specifically the additions that would support our financial services, METS, and child support programs. If phase 1 was successful, generally a few months after implementation, we would request phase 2. In terms of the contract before you, I just want to share that completion of this contract was no simple task. We've been working on that since the board workshop in collaboration with Michelle, Dale, myself, and Caseworks. We had several revisions made to the standard contract that they shared with us, focused on data privacy, virus and malware protection, and liability. So I wanted to address why the immediate need, why we are not waiting until budget time to make this request. Human Services data was previously stored using Application Extender, and that Application Extender program in its current form is at its end of life. It will no longer support our needs. For that reason, Human Services has been working on implementing Laserfiche for the past 5 years. And Laserfiche is a wonderful program for what it does and would have the capability of doing what we need several years down the road. We would currently need to build that program to provide the tasks that we need it to complete. At this point, Health and Human Services documents are located in Application Extender, Laserfiche, and in paper form. So as you can imagine, that's not very efficient for our workers or for our clients. At the time of the board workshop in March, there were questions surrounding the storage of our data and requested or related privacy concerns. At that time, we were intending to store our data in an off-site location hosted by another county. So to address that concern, we have put together a plan to host our data on-site. This allows for our data to be secured within our own system and monitored by our own technologies department, which makes us comfortable in knowing that we have a higher level of security. Caseworks employees will also access our data for maintenance purposes, and so they will undergo background checks, complete annual data privacy training, and follow specific procedures regarding data privacy, which included provisions to the contract specific to responsibility for data breaches and their responsibility in reporting those to us in a timely manner. Painful part, the cost. Our initial startup for the cost for phase 1 implementation, including the product and services, would be $148,688, which after federal reimbursement would cost us $62,449. And that number is based on approximate 50% reimbursement for the income maintenance portion and approximately 65% reimbursement rate for the child support. So they have asked us to estimate at 58% federal reimbursement. Starting in 2020, the annual cost for this software support would be $42,375 for the years of January 2020 through January 22. And again, after applying that federal reimbursement, that number is $17,797. After those few years, the rate will increase to be 30% of our software costs, but it cannot exceed 3% on an increase on an annual basis. Phase 2 of the program, which is not included in the contract today, would be an additional cost of up to $152,000 for the implementation, which after federal reimbursement would be $121,000. There is a much less reimbursement rate for the social services teams. That's why the higher number there. The ongoing additional cost would be $43,000 per year, which after federal reimbursement would be $35,000. So if we put together both phases after federal reimbursement, we would be looking at an overall software cost of $183,449 with an annual support agreement of $52,797. I would also need to add that in conversation with Dale about hosting our data on site, we do have an infrastructure cost to that as well. In order for our system to have all of those components, I will summarize just the main topics of that, and again, Dale can answer any specific questions. Although I would note, while this sounds like a significant number, this was already an identified need area and was one of Dale's plans for capital improvement projects in the next few years. So we have a SharePoint Enterprise License Key, $18,000, an automated backup of database and disaster recovery plan up to $90,000, and a registered domain with security socket layer at $1,250. So my request today would be approval for the purchase of phase 1 of the Caseworks software.
I'm waiting. Do you want a motion, or can I ask my question first?
Well, I'll move it.
Okay, I just want to get it in discussion.
I just want to be clear, does that include the part the Dale part?
No.
We would need to request that as well, yes.
Yeah, that's the.
I just
bolt-on.
make sure
Yeah,
that we're
yeah,
all clear that it's
right.
phase 1 and
the technology.
Yes, thank you for the clarification.
I make that motion.
One and or two to occur, I still need the base.
Right.
Yes, I make that motion.
We have a motion for the phase 1 software licensing and the accoutrement. Not only is it equipment, but it's also a license, a data license for the product.
Second.
We have a second. More discussion. How much growth do we have to bolt on to do phase 2? I asked that of Dale.
If in my CIP, if you look in there, there's storage plans for it. I would ask to slide some of it forward for stage 1, and at that point we'll have a better idea. But I think it's accounted for from what our growth potential has been through the years. We just need to shuffle it around a little bit.
So, I'm sorry, go
No,
ahead.
go ahead. No.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
You're on a path. Go ahead. I can wait.
Dale, would you come up to the mic too, so it's a matter of
Sure.
record. Go ahead, Jack. You had a
Thank
question.
you, Mr. Chair. So do we
Hi,
have,
dear.
are you gonna need extra staff to be able to make this happen? And that's
For
to you.
implementations, I think I'm gonna require, because of the time frame that we're looking at. I mean, I have an excellent staff, and I have they have the expertise to do it, but to put it in place with everything else that's going there, we will, part of some of those dollars in there is we will hire out some additional help to get it in place.
You'll have to bring people in to, as
To
experts.
do the core implementation.
Consultants.
It's a hardware.
The other question, Mr. Chair, I'm wondering, the 24 counties that you say are using Caseworks, have they been satisfied with the work of this particular company?
Absolutely. So I've spoken about this at regional directors meetings and gotten excellent feedback on the customer service and the efficiencies it creates. We also had our staff members go to Blue Earth County to observe the software on more of a day-to-day basis, and they also received excellent feedback.
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Lipke.
I got kind of lost in here, but between you two and Denny and Ryan, is this our best option to serve our people, our taxpayers, as well as the people you serve?
I believe so. This program was very unique in that it was built specifically for health and human services agencies, so it very well fulfills our needs.
Dale?
Yes.
Okay.
Same answer. I mean, it originally, I believe at the board workshop, they mentioned that as well, but the reason for this came for this particular area. I mean, it's really no different than our tax system or our probation system. It was designed for what they do, which that's why Laserfish can do it. It is an excellent program, but it's not out of the box made for that. So we're adapting to making it work for what we need, whereas this fits 90% of their needs already. So we get to hit the ground running, try to hit those efficiencies as quickly as we can.
And I should add in our employees too,
Yes.
our staff.
Could you, to follow up on John's, could we just expand a little bit? In what ways is it better first for our clients? And in what ways might it be better for the county in terms of efficiency or time or the like?
Sure. When I think about clients who might drop off paperwork and then they might call us to see where something is at, right now that paper document could be on the desk of any worker, it could be in a mailbox, it could be with clerical. When we have Caseworks implemented, things will be scanned in immediately and they will go into either a folder that is waiting to be worked on or a client's file. And so if a client calls in to check on paperwork, we have an immediate answer. This item is in one of 2 locations. So I think that will provide a lot of efficiency and customer service. We'll also have the ability to look client information up much more quickly. Clients who come in the lobby can enter their social security number on a private pad so that they can sometimes bridge language gaps that can occur and be able to make sure that we're finding the correct individual very quickly. So those are a couple ways in which that would be very efficient for customer service. In terms of our staff members, this would create folders where people can share data. It would allow for us to see much of this data at various locations using laptops. It would allow us to do that in client homes, and so we would be able to work on completing forms and things quickly. It would also allow for clients, when they drop off the forms, for them to be sent directly to their worker, which could really expedite the services. And a huge one is just the packets that we put together and mail out for people. When clients have paperwork to be filled out, somebody might have 10 pieces of paper applications that they're getting prepared for a client, and they might be typing in that name, address, birthday on all of those pages, whereas Caseworks would pull all of that data from our state systems, so it would be accurate data the first time, put it on all of those pages and put together the packet. So, I mean, we're taking a half an hour down to 1 minute. And when you think about the number of cases our financial workers serve every day, that will make a huge impact in their day-to-day activities.
Sorry.
Do I have one more then?
Please.
If I thank you, Mr. Chair. Dale, I raised it. I think I was one of the commissioners raised the data security, data privacy issue, and I'm very grateful for your collective work on that matter. It sounds, what I'm hearing though is, even if this weren't happening, this project, the county may have needed, or it may have been wise for the county to take steps when it came to data privacy and data security.
Correct. As you're aware of, just even in the day-to-day activities going on, and we've started. It's just a continuation of what we already started. I mean, we're already starting to do security scans ourselves. We've had obviously our firewalls in place. We send our staff to get ourselves. We're very concerned with what our data is, and so between the logs of who comes in and where it goes and stuff, it's a paramount kind of thing for us to take care of. So, yes.
Anything else?
Well, I mean, the only thing, this wasn't included in the budget.
Right.
So we're using funds that you folks have in your reserve, correct? Is that where that's coming from?
So this will be paid for the initial software purchase and equipment purchase will come out of human service reserves, which for 2018 unaudited, we increased those reserves by about $1 million. So we've got 7 to 8 months of reserves, very healthy fund balance to pay for this. And then the annual maintenance will be added to our overall budget and levy. But in discussing this purchase and investment, Cassie and I think that there's going to be enough efficiencies that we likely will not have to potentially backfill a position or two in the future, which will save levy dollars, or we can reallocate those staff resources to prevent adding additional staff. So we do think this will pay for itself in short order.
And there's also some reimbursement on the front side was
right.
Federal reimbursement.
So that was, the total nut isn't as large as originally described.
Correct.
I guess my other question is, are there reductions in work, whatever we're doing for Laserfish or whatever, which will somehow change or won't be done or will be done in a different way to add to that efficiency or to provide those resources kind of collectively? What's our thoughts there?
I'll say yes, only because Laserfish being the product it is, it's still configurable and so raw.
Right.
This has already been tried and tested for us, so there are some things that will be in place, so we're not, I hate to say double checking because we do double check our work, but everything's in place to where it is. We won't be beta testing and then going back and trying to run two systems. I mean, I think I don't want to say we're throwing in the towel because we're not. We got some good staff, but this will be a good thing for all of their workers to help us along.
And theoretically, the raw data is in a format that if we find the new best thing because of the nature of the core application, we should be able to export it and do something with it if
go to
that
the next
need arises.
Great thing that it is, correct.
Okay. as future-proof as we can make it.
Today.
Ma'am.
Anticipated start date and rollout?
So they have said that if this was approved, they could begin working with us on July 15th. They would set a start date of the fall for us to go live. They have encouraged us that they have never missed a go live date. They have teams then who would meet with us for the next few months to make all of the business decisions for things, to look at our current workflow and then how we could improve and become more efficient.
Okay, let me, if I may, I add then, Dale, does that meet a timeline that is matchable with your office if we're bolting in more hardware and those resources? So
We're making provisions, but
we're confident that we can get ourselves
Yep.
close to those.
And part of the conversion and things like that, all that timeline is in there. And then at this point, is it concerning? It's one of those, yep, but I think it's obtainable.
How does this impact our potential migration to 10?
Still working on it the same, that's one of the reasons why.
Well, and that
I'm
was my
asking
question is where does that?
Where does it
And that's
fall
why,
into?
but that's why we're needing some outside assistance
It
for
is.
pieces of it.
We're just,
Yep.
asking for more resources, and I'm looking for that 27-hour day.
All right.
We'll be eventually adding a new payroll HR benefit system, but Dale and I
Right.
had that conversation, we can't do it all at once, so we're gonna lay this out as best as we can to, make it manageable for IT.
Okay. Just want to make sure we covered all the bases. I'm sure you have, but I've got to ask the question. That's my job up here.
I would be remiss if you didn't.
Mr. Chair?
Sir?
You think this is a good idea? Necessary idea?
My personal bias is yes, because I think we've had too many things falling through the cracks that make, in the time we've spent with HHS staff, that we understand things have become more convoluted, and we've all worked with the state systems for so long, we know that there are some issues with that.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
yes, the short answer is yes, Jen.
I like short answers.
Thank you, I'll do my best. Anything else? Let's have a roll call vote, just because we can. Okay.
Commissioner Morrow?
Yes.
Kohler?
Yes.
McKee?
Yes.
Rental?
Yes.
Kemp?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your work on this.
We really appreciate your work, and we're optimistic that we can help everyone be more efficient.
We appreciate your support.
Speaking of, here's the award-winning.
Don't say that.
As he writes that on his new curriculum.
Yeah,
Award-winning engineer. Good morning.
Good morning,
We
Mr.
have some public works items.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board and staff. Several items from Public Works today. The first two, consider advertising for our 2019 striping project. The 2019 striping project is our annual contract to restripe a portion of the paved county roads. And we're going to be investing about $170,000 in that effort. And so I'm asking the board today to authorize that advertising for the striping project and set a bid opening date of July 22nd at 11:30 a.m. at the Public Works office.
So moved.
We have a motion.
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion?
And that's in the current budget?
Yes, yep, that's an annual item every year that we
We do about half the county each year, every other year, right?
half to 3/4, depending on exactly what we're striping. Sometimes we get into our concrete roads that need restriping. The type of materials that we use on those are more expensive than what we do on our bituminous roads. And then if we have ADA type stripings that we got to do, so the big blocks for like a pedestrian crossing at a roundabout, we grind in those markings so they last a little bit longer, and we use a type of almost film plastic material that gets almost, they use heat to stick it down, and it's much more durable than paint or epoxy. So those will make the cost fluctuate in the amount of mileage that we actually get striped.
Anything else? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Next item.
Next item, consider rejection of bids and re-advertise government-centered parking lot project. On June 17th, we received 2 bids and opened them up at 11 o'clock in the morning. We received bids from OMG Midwest, they do business as Minnesota Paving and Materials, so SMC. Nielsen Blacktopping and Concrete. And then, of course, you see there the engineer's estimate. When we opened bids, we discovered that the bid from OMG Midwest had not signed and filled out the non-collusion declaration, which is a requirement of a good bid. And then Nielsen Blacktopping, all their items were signed and in order in there, but they were over the engineer's estimate. And so myself and the county administrator had an extensive conversation over this, and we came to the conclusion that we should recommend rejection of both bids and re-advertise for this project. If the board would happen to reject them and authorize re-advertising, we would start advertising tomorrow with the intent that we would still try to construct this project this year. Depending on the results of that bid, of those bids that we would receive, if things look good, we'd move along with construction. But if they don't look good, we would probably look at re-advertising for construction for next year. So my requested action to the board today is to reject both bids and authorize re-advertising for this project and set a bid opening date and time of July 22nd at 11 o'clock at the Public Works office.
I'd entertain a motion.
So moved.
We have a motion. We have a second. Question.
So do you expect, Seth, either of these companies to come back and have all the necessary paperwork in place?
I would imagine so.
Okay. Beyond that, could we get the current occupant of the White House to sign a non-collusion declaration?
I don't know.
I will add, Mr. Chair, for the board's information, a year ago we discussed this and had no plans, and so we came up with the best guess cost for the budget. We budgeted $425,000. These are all reserve funds we'll be using. As we've seen and heard from neighbors, contract costs are up. We're experiencing that as well. Contract costs are up for all projects, primarily weather related, we think is a big driving factor of that. But so we will, assuming these bids come in similar again, we will be spending a little more than we had anticipated.
We can always reject them again if they're still. I mean, that's the reality of it, but we have to move forward.
Right.
So on this, excuse me, Mr. Chair, on this page, is there the engineer's estimate on the page or not?
Yep, it should be. It's
Right below the
included
two.
in the board meeting agenda item, and we had estimated a project cost of $514,974.68.
It's underneath Nielsen Blacktopping, in the middle there, John.
Oh, sure. Looked right at it and didn't see it.
Okay. Any other questions? We have a motion, a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
The next item is to consider a build grant letter and resolutions of support, and this item dovetails into what we heard from the district engineer, Greg Ose. He had comments to the board about the build grant that MnDOT will be submitting for the US Highway 14 4-lane expansion. As Greg mentioned, the build grant is what the old Tiger grant used to be. This grant, part of the grant process is it looks at outside dollars that are going to be leveraged to make this project whole. The DOT, if they would be successful in receiving this grant, would receive approximately $25 million to help fund the estimated $85 million project to expand Trunk Highway 14 to 4 lanes from Nicollet to New Ulm. And so MnDOT has requested letters and resolutions of support from local partners for this build grant application. Included in your packet is a draft letter of support and a resolution of support. And within the resolution of the support, it also says that the county is willing and able to contribute local cost participation to the 2 interchanges that would be built as part of that project. One interchange at the intersection of Highway 14 and County Road 37, and an interchange at the intersection of Highway 14 and County Road 12 and 24. And I'd be more than happy to answer any further questions about this item.
I'll move that.
We have a motion for the resolution. We have a second. Questions?
Mr. Chair, we heard about this at our area transportation partnership meeting on the 14th of June, and I was in touch with Seth that day because he was out of town on other business. My understanding from our conversation, if this resembles the Tiger Grant, the way they used to call that, and now this Build Grant, understanding it's very, very competitive.
Yeah, these grants are always very competitive, and within the DOT, not every district is able to just submit projects. MnDOT Central Office looks at a pool of projects across the state, and they make a determination, I think, on what projects they think are high priorities to them and that may compete well in this round of grant funding. And so last year, this project did not meet the criteria. Other projects were selected and submitted, and as you heard Greg say, one project got funded out in the Wilmer area, and so this year I believe the Highway 14 project is one of 3 projects that the DOT will be submitting. At least that's what the last update I was given from the DOT.
Commissioner Moore?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you, Seth. One thing I think that was brought out is we have now the 4-lane from Nicollet to North Mankato.
Yes.
How's the performance and safety been on the portion that is 4-lane?
I haven't done any direct analysis on that, but I have, from my understanding, it's working just fine. I don't believe there's been any fatal or serious injury crashes on that stretch.
Which had been a dangerous
Yes.
part of the 14 problem.
Which was always interesting because of that stretch from New Ulm to North Mankato. That was the straightest, flattest section of that entire highway, but it ended up killing multiple people.
People tried to pass too often too. I mean, they on the
Yeah, I
open
think
stretch.
a certain extent was after following behind long lines of cars for a long ways from New Ulm where there was no real good areas to pass. People get agitated and antsy and then try to pass where it looks like you could pass and make bad decisions and gaps with oncoming traffic.
Anything else?
No, unless there's more questions.
I would know.
I agree with Seth.
Hearing none, let's see, we have a motion, so all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Seth. Is that all we had with you
Oh,
today?
I can talk longer if you'd
Well,
like.
you know,
I can
you've-
do
you've had
updates
two-
on other
you've had 2 bites of
outstanding.
the apple today already.
Well, I
you
can
know,
take a
so-
third too.
Acceptance speech, right?
Right.
If you
Did
want,
you have something you'd
if
like
you
to-
happen to want updates on all our other outstanding projects that were developed,
You know, I think
in
now would be an
disaster.
appropriate time for that. It's
Yeah.
it's good to let everybody hear them, so.
Sure. County Road 12, of course, we're deep into project development on that project. We had last Tuesday, we had sent out, probably 2-3 weeks in advance of that meeting, a request to all the property owners that will be directly affected by the project. We basically had an open house all day where we have our engineering consultant and then of course myself and other county staff there, wanting those landowners to come in and get an update on the design aspects of the project and then to solicit any input from them on any features that we're not aware of that we may impact during the construction, that we want to, address those during the project and not run into something that's completely unforeseen. We had 5 out of 11 property owners that will be directly affected by this project come in, and so I'm a little bit disappointed that we didn't have a better turnout because some of the largest landowners that will be affected of this did not show up, and we need to talk to them. We will be reaching out to them, but it's highly important that they talk to us, because I'm sure that they may have tile lines and other features that there's no public records of that we need to know about, so we can re-hook up stuff out there. So a little disappointed on that turnout, but we're going to keep reaching out. As Commissioner Lipke had mentioned, MnDOT Cultural Resource Office has started to come out and to do cultural resource work when there's federal funds involved with a county state aid project of this sort. MnDOT Cultural Resource Unit takes the lead on those investigations. They have some concerns that there may be historical farm sites, buildings, trees. I didn't realize you could have a historical tree, but I guess you can.
Must not be an elm or an ash, huh?
Yeah, praying to the good Lord that they don't find anything historical out there, because if they do, it only makes the project more expensive and more difficult and can delay ultimate completion of those projects. So that is ongoing. Of course, the discussions with the DNR will be upcoming, talking about the actual grade raise through the flooded portion. Appraisal work will start here in July, with probably this fall to early winter we'll start making offers on compensation for new right-of-way, temporary easements and whatnot. So there's a lot of work yet to do on County Road 12, and it feels like construction's right around the corner. So we're moving as fast as we can.
And Mr. Chair, Seth, I do have a message from one of the landowners, and I'll talk to you after.
All right, good. County Road 14 slide update. I do have a consultant now on board with agreed upon contract. Gale Tech Engineering will be beginning investigations on remediation efforts for that slide. We're hoping that soil borings and drillings can commence maybe the week of July 8th. And upon tests that they do on that boring material, they will then start to develop different types of remediation solutions for that. That will be phase one. After those options are developed, we'll pick one of those, and then we'll enter into the phase two contract, where they will actually develop plans and specifications and construction documents to go with whatever solution that we pick. We're going to push hard and hope that we are able to do a late season project, late fall type project. But if it looks like that is not going to be attainable, part of their recommendations will be what type of measures do we have to put in place to safely hold that project over the winter before we can do the potential fix next spring. But we're going to push hard for a complete fix this year, but like I said, may be delayed depending on, of course, federal funds involved, lots of approvals to go through and whatnot. So County Road 1 culvert collapse. We have plans in at MnDOT for review. Most of the environmental reviews have come back saying that we're not going to impact bats and other rare and endangered species. I'm still waiting on a state review for state endangered species, but we're getting closer to being able to send quotes out to contractors and hopefully get somebody on board. My only concern is contractors are getting full. They're backed up since it's been wet this spring. We'll probably get all ready to go, and then we won't be able to get a contractor on board. But hopefully we can. It should only be a 2 to 3 day project, really, for replacement and the restoration of that. So I can't really give you a time frame on exactly when County Road 1 will be open, but we're pushing to get that open as soon as we can.
As long as you're still on that topic, what's the status of, we were looking at the resin injection on two
It's
of the
done.
crossings?
It was done almost days after we had spoken
Okay,
at
and-
that
all right,
board
and
meeting.
we didn't know that. I didn't know that. So
We thought that, well, they had told us that they were, after we had signed the agreement with them that they were over a month out before
Right,
they
and
could
that's what I
show up,
recall,
and
so-
the ink probably wasn't even dry on the agreement, and they were calling saying, our guys are showing up this afternoon at 4:30, we're going to do this, which was fine, because we had the road closed
Right.
already and detoured, and within 12 hours, both those pipes were lined and functioning, and
What's
turned out
your
really well.
observation? I'm assuming Nate was also witnessed some of this action. Does this technology have promise for us?
Oh
in
yeah,
other
that
areas?
it was really slick. It worked out really well.
And we're comfortable that it will survive the deterioration of the surrounding metal?
The next engineer after me will probably be able to answer that, because I will probably be gone by the time we know that the full
So then-
lifespan of this.
So my question is, what is the duration of your survival with the county?
I don't know. Some
Maybe
days
that's the
I
question.
some days I wonder. Some days I wonder.
Okay.
It went really well. It was really slick, and if we find another culvert that has deterioration but has not failed and the road is open, the beauty of it is at the most maybe a single lane road closure, but we'd still be able to maintain traffic while they did this remediation effort.
And how
So-
large a dimension can they ultimately
Oh boy, they
do the work with in this?
they had mentioned, I'd seen another presentation they had done, and I think the max size was like an 84 or a 96-inch culvert, and that was the biggest in the country that they'd done so far. But it's a developing technology, and they seem to be able to do bigger and bigger pipes all the time. So, yeah, it was slick, really good.
Optimistic to hear that we've had success and.
See what it looks like next year.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's going to look the same as it did.
We hope.
It's
Cool.
it's neat stuff.
Great.
The only other project I'd like to touch on was our County Road 21 bridge project. Of course, that's been delayed a bit with additional cultural resource review. The report that Bolton and Mink did the Phase 1 archaeological survey for us. They dug pits, they did full investigation out there. They found nothing at the site. And so when there's no federal funds involved on a project, MnDOT Cultural Resource Unit does not take the lead. The local agency takes the lead on this, so we sent that information out to the State Historical Preservation Office and the Tribal Council, and they have up to a 30-day comment period that will be running out probably around July 1st. We have not heard anything back from those agencies at this point. It's kind of our last hurdle that we're awaiting. Hopefully nothing comes back on that. Plans are at MnDOT for final review, and so if everything goes to plan, I'm hoping to come back here at maybe the first meeting in July to request that we advertise for this project and hopefully construct that project yet this year. But if we have one little hiccup in this and we get delayed, there's probably not enough construction season this year to fully complete that bridge and open it up. We're looking at a good 70, 75 working days, and when I talk working days, it's like the contractor working 10, 12-hour days. It's not calendar days. So if we get much later, that project will probably have to be delayed till next year for construction. But being optimistic here.
Mr. Chair, we can't authorize it now, can we, pursuant to everything being done?
Because we don't know what we're bidding for if there's a problem yet, right?
Correct.
Okay. All right.
We can't do the spec until
I was
we
scared
know.
of that, but
Okay.
trying to be positive.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I mean, it's a good question. Anything else you'd like to share with us?
Not at this time, and if the board has any other questions on any other issue, I'd be more than happy to answer those.
Again, I think I speak for the entire board, we've been very pleased with your diligence and your staff's diligence in trying to resolve so many moving targets that we have. And it's been an exceptional year, and it continues to be exceptional, so.
Yeah, these disaster projects are tough ones, especially when you introduce federal funding into them, because there's numerous approvals and review that we must go through. And I fully understand the public's frustrations on why is this project or this road not getting fixed right now. I've talked to quite a few different people that have called in and asked questions and whatnot. And I always remind them, you know, when we do a road project, there's years of planning that goes into it before we actually close the road. And then you see construction happen immediately. When you have a disaster and all of a sudden you have to close it, we have all the planning to do starting after the road closure. So, yeah, it's
And then we have
it's
to
tough
convince
to
the purse string
understand.
to release a few coins too.
Mhm. Yeah.
So, and that has been progressing well?
Yes.
Okay. Anybody have anything else? Again, thank you very much, Seth.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time. Mr. Administrator, you have some items for us.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We are at the last part of our sheriff's office remodel. In your packet, I have from our construction manager, Integrity Group. They obtained 5 quotes for re-roofing the sheriff's office with steel shingles. I say quotes because the project is under $175,000. So when it's under $175,000, we don't have to formally bid it. Although Integrity Group and ISG, our architects, we do have a full set of specs and plans. They went ahead and obtained those quotes based on those specs and plans. We are recommending contracting with Fairmont Roofing, who submitted the low quote of $87,727.50. Fairmont Roofing has experience installing steel shingles, and they come recommended by Decra, who is the manufacturer of the steel shingles. You'll notice there was a wide range in the quotes we obtained. The top 2 are the lowest quotes. Both of those construction companies specialize in steel shingles, where the other ones don't necessarily specialize. And the biggest expense of this project is our turret on that building. That is a very expensive endeavor to re-roof, especially with steel shingles. So some of the contractors had to include extra cost in their proposal just because they're not specialized in that. So again, we're requesting to move forward with hiring Fairmont Roofing. They could start approximately July 22nd. It's about a 4 to 5 week process that it would take to get that done. I didn't include the contract in your packet simply because of the size of it. For projects like this, we use something called an AIA, which is American Institute of Architects standard form, that we've used several times. And with that and its supplements and general conditions and specifications was 207 pages. So I excluded including that in the packet. But I would recommend that we move ahead with that.
I entertain a motion.
So moved.
We have a motion to accept the bid
Second.
of Fairmont Roofing. We have a second. Any other discussion, any other questions? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
My next item is I'm requesting approval to attend the International City and County Management Association Annual Conference in Nashville this year in October. Many city and county managers attend this annually and have stated it's a very educational event. I've had the cost in my budget for many years. I just never go because I'm usually off hunting or fishing in October, and I'm not going to be this year. So I am asking that I get approval to attend this conference.
Entertain a motion.
So
Have a motion.
Second, and is it like turkey season down there when you're down there or something?
I'm not sure.
It's
Any
a lot
other-
of people who go this
Yes,
thing.
it is.
Yeah,
big,
it's
well attended, yeah.
it is the international, so they come from
Yeah.
all over the world.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Hearing nothing else, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Informational items. Or I'm assuming that's all you had, or do you
That's
have
all.
any? Yeah.
No, that's it. Thank
I'm
you,
sorry.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Chair's report, ECM Finance Committee, electronic communications for the state, which I serve representing our region, part of the radio board. Workforce Joint Powers Board meeting, Board of Equalization here in St. Peter. attended our department head meeting and our Swan Lake PLT event with the DNR, which was wonderfully attended and very informative from my perspective. Commissioners, I'd enjoy your reports. We'll start with Commissioner Lipke today.
Oh, okay. Well, this is the Board of Equalization with the rest of you. Went to the Greater Mankato Growth Legislative thing in the North Mankato, which was good. Went to the workshop with the rest of you, Swan Lake with the rest of you. The DNR meeting last night in Cortland. Been getting comments from folks about, or calls about County 14, and Dave said he has people out there today checking for heavy trucks. Because apparently once they stop patrolling it, the trucks show up. And got comments from 62A, as I'm sure others of you had, and County Road 1, trying to explain to them about the tribal nations and the endangered species, and had Seth call a couple of the people to give it a better explanation than I could, and everybody's kind of amazed.
As are we sometimes.
Yes.
Right. Is that all you have, Jen?
Yes, thank you.
Commissioner Morrow.
The Board of Equalization with you all, and Marie, thank you for letting me sit in the Planning and Zoning Advisory. That was very interesting. Workshop as well. I went to the Substance Abuse Coalition, which I think may be getting a new acronym, but I'm not going to say what it is. I'll let them announce it. Swan Lake with you all. Went to the Our St. Peter meeting, which was an interesting coalition. John and I were at Swede Fest in Bernadotte, which was fairly well attended.
Yes, and Jeff Brand.
And Jeff Brand as well. And Michelle and I were at the FCC presentation yesterday on scams and robocalls. And the one thing I took away was the one public member who said that they had heard that Minnesotans tend to be more susceptible to robocalls because we're nicer. And we actually pick up the phone. Is that we pick up the phone, we engage. We don't just let it ring and ignore it.
So we have to quit that.
But the FCC's advice was if it's an unknown number, don't pick it up.
Was it well attended or informative?
It wasn't.
It was informative. It's similar to what we've been doing and going out and presenting to the different community groups. And I think based upon the comments from those that were in attendance, I think we just need to continue to push those to get attendance. And what Bonnie Peterson and I talked about afterwards is trying to find an ability to tandem or partner with existing meetings so that people aren't having to make a decision to attend a standalone meeting, but to be able to go out and present. Like we were just at the Lafayette Lions Club a couple weeks ago. So we hit a large number of people because it was a meeting they were going to anyway. So we're going to continue to try to push that information out. And there were also suggestions about putting more on social media. So Bonnie and I will be working to get more out on our Facebook page, and the City of St. Peter and North Mankato pages. And then there was a very pointed, an appropriate comment about making sure that we are trying to push information out on the west part of the county, and that's always a struggle to find the best way of making sure that those citizens receive the same information. There's just less sources to get the information out to them, and so continuing to try to explore some of those ideas were some takeaways from that presentation.
I thought it was a real confirmation of the good work you're doing and that Bonnie's doing, and it was also nice KUIC was there, so again, Nicollet County provided the forum upon which then they could do a local story.
Yep.
So, question for you two. How is it that they use local numbers?
Yeah. Spoofing.
It's spoofing, and it's beyond my technical capabilities, but I mean it's a program. And interestingly enough, when we were talking about the presentation before we went up, somebody in my office indicated that they're now getting spoofing calls that are coming in on their cell phone from their home. So it looks like somebody from their landline is calling their cell phone. So they're answering those calls.
But I've already had people call me and say, "You tried to call me."
Yes.
No, I didn't.
That's the hook.
Yeah.
Gets you to answer, gets you beyond that, or gets you beyond whatever firewall you've already put in your own phone network.
So the message kind of going along what Commissioner Morrow said is that, number one, telling people if you don't recognize the number, hang up, and number two, hang up. You know, if it's a robocall and you realize that it's not somebody that you know, or it's a solicitation that you're not interested in, you have permission to say, you know, just to hang up and to make sure that they do that.
Commissioner Brown?
I had 3 of those calls yesterday afternoon at the office. We tend to put them on hold and then walk away. Seems to work quite well, too.
Your time's out after a while.
Yeah, eventually. While you all were at the Greater Mankato Growth Legislative Forum, I went to the St. Peter Area Chamber of Commerce's forum, which was a bit smaller and a little bit more intimate. Board of Adjustment and Appeals, where I was the only person certified, which you all are going to be working on that this month.
Yes.
Thank you. Department head, board workshop, our Swan Lake Pilt thing. If anybody wants my camera chip with the 200 pictures on it, I have it. That evening was Region 9's annual meeting also in Upper North. And I also attended the DNR Cortland meeting last night.
Commissioner Kohlars?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Very busy for all of us. GMC Legislative Conference with many of us at that point. We talked about the Area Transportation Partnership meeting. I had a Minnesota Valley Action Council committee meeting that day as well. The equalization, our board of workshop, the DNR at Swan Lake. And by the way, I received a call from Minnesota Outdoors writer and Outdoor News, and I don't know if others have received that yet.
He was on deadline, and I didn't get back to him in time for his deadline.
That's good to know.
So hopefully,
because he had a 9 a.m. this morning deadline, and I didn't catch the.
Yeah. Well, he seemed like he was very well versed in outdoor stuff, so he really liked the place. With respect to the AMC board, we served our last board meeting last Friday, and many of you know, and I appreciate your support for the interest that I had been indicating about the NACO appointment. As the time came from April through June, and visiting with Tony Carter, who's a Ramsey County Commissioner, we were the 2 candidates last Friday to have that position voted on, and the replacement would be replacing Jim McDonough, who is Ramsey County as a Metro rep. And I was just saying to myself, I think Tony is a better candidate. And as it came down to it, she was terrific. She's been involved with NACO for a number of years, past AMC board chair. And I think will do a terrific job, so I endorsed her. And she was approved. And so I did indicate to the folks on the AMC board that I'd be happy to continue working with them in some future capacity. And so there are some committees I'd like to visit with you about, Ryan.
Sure.
So, but thank you for your support for that endeavor, and I think I just need to get a little bit more experience or active in NACO to be more involved in that sort of appointment down the road. Then we had our MTRAC meeting yesterday in Mankato. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Again, thank you, Jack, for all your ongoing support and all your hard work in transit. And it's been very helpful, I think, or we would not have gone as far as we did with lots of issues without your input and your ongoing support and knowledge of transit issues and also the funding mechanism. So again, thank you very much for that. It is greatly appreciated. Do we have any meetings and conferences we need to address at this time? I think we took care of your issue, and that's all we have. Okay, I'd entertain a motion.
Commissioner Drannell is holding up a card. I think it came from ISG. They're having a drainage conference in Marshall, I believe.
Is that something of interest to you, ma'am?
Maybe.
There's, you wouldn't need a motion for that.
Okay.
That's regular biz, isn't it? Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Hearing.
If you would go to that, one day would it be adequate too, or?
One day is tours, one day is conference.
So the first day is a conference?
No.
Oh.
Other way around, I think. I'll leave it to you guys to decide that at some point. Entertain a motion for per diems and expenses. Please.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously, kind of. Some of you didn't say anything.
Aye.
Aye.
Sorry.
Thank you. All
Can't
right.
type
Are you
and look at the
occupied?
same
Now
time.
it's carried unanimously. I highly appreciate that. Entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Motion is carried unanimously. We are adjourned from our June 25th board meeting. I'd like to continue. We have an agenda item, which is our consent agenda. I'd entertain a motion for same.
So moved.
We have a motion.
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. I would now like to close this meeting for an attorney-client privilege under Minnesota statutes 13D. Do I announce the discussion component also?
Just regarding.
Regarding County Ditch 62A improvement project. We are now in closed session.